Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead. Seth, Merrow, and Steve Bick live again from Clare Court on a beautiful Sunday morning. And I said Seth, Merrow, and Steve Bick, and I mean it. Last week he was on the road, a little sojourn to Monmouth, Colonial Downs, and beyond. Welcome back.
I'm glad to be back.
And glad to have you back.
Well, I'm back for the duration too. Right,
okay.
Right straight through Labor Day. No more wanderings until the day after Labor Day, until we hightail it to Kentucky for the first 2 weeks of September. But other than that, had the craziest. It's kind of a wild 9 days or whatever it was. Yes.
Fill us in. You were down at the Jersey Shore for lead up to the Haskell Day, and I know you're friendly with Al Gold. I think I passed Al Gold yesterday or the day before, and it didn't dawn on me till I walked by. I had to say congratulations.
Did you turn back and?
No, because by then I was.
Al is still walking around.
He's got to be
in a daze, and I believe that in the wake of the Haskell, that they've made a stallion deal for Cyberknife.
Wow, two great ones.
Well, and the excitement and the fervor that was involved with Mike Rapoli going back to the Belmont win and being local and all that. Al Gold literally grew up 3 minutes from Monmouth Park, and his father in the real estate business, him in the real estate business, and so Monmouth County is, and the whole shore scene is Al's milieu and his life wrapped up. So when the conversation came to goals for Cyberknife, I mean the race that. If they got to the Derby, that was great. But the race that Brad Cox heard, that he wanted to focus on and win potentially would be the Haskell. So I think part of it was Al's just. We should have actually reached out to have Al today. I had him on the show on Monday, and it was just such a great conversation. He had missed the Arkansas Derby because of a airplane mishap. Al is not a great flyer. There's white knuckle, and then there's digging fingertips into the armrests. That's Al. So they had a problem. They actually booked a private plane, and there was a problem with the plane. And so they got up, they turned around, and Al said, "No, we're not. That was it." So he didn't get to go to the Arkansas Derby. So now here comes the Haskell. He's got his kids are right there. They live in Red Bank, and he's sick. He, as he explained, he came down with COVID. And Al has been so careful for the 2 years, unbelievable. So here he is within the shadow of Haskell, and he's sick and sick. I mean, not just the headache and the tired and the general principles. But by Wednesday, he was feeling better. So he came down, and I was broadcasting Thursday and Friday. I mean, I did not think he could win. I really didn't. To me,
great trip coming up the trail.
Well, Giroux's ride was spectacular. But much like what we saw yesterday, and which we'll talk about obviously in a minute, and Scott Blasi had a great quote to me after the race. And I'll get to that. But much like Epicenter, this version, this post-Derby version of Cyberknife, who was a difficult horse from the get-go, is a different horse. And as Blasi said afterward, as they sent him down, heading back to the barn, Scott came walking back and he said to me, "Working with a different horse now." And that's part of the equation. I mean, obviously Chad had done the same kinds of things trying to move forward with Zandon, and he ran very well. I'm sure they were a little disappointed with early voting, but this is what's so much fun about a Derby trail and Triple Crown season that then is given way to a wide open 3-year-old scene. I mean, the Travers, and then subsequently the Pennsylvania Derby, and then ultimately when they all meet up with the older horses, it's just gone from strength to strength all season long in most divisions.
Yeah.
And Jackie's Warriors dominating the sprint division, but every place else, the fillies and mares, the fillies, you name it, the 3-year-old fillies, every division. The turf obviously is got, you know, its usual assortment, and the miles. I thought that last weekend and then yesterday really lent itself beautifully to what lies ahead, to the Travers, and obviously we're going to be excited. But for Al Gold, it was magical, and being, I've known Al 20 years, and as I wrote, I think on Twitter, and I explained to him, and I've said it many times, Al was robbed early on in his experience in the game. He was robbed, and a lot of owners that come into the game that end up dealing with unscrupulous people, bloodstock agents, and so forth, they turn tail and are embarrassed, and they leave, and that's to the detriment of the sport.
Yeah.
Al dug his heels in, and a lot of times I've said, if anybody out there deserves a big horse, it was Al Gold, and he's had nice horses, and he's won some stakes, and you know, came close to making a sire with. In fact, that horse beat. Oh my gosh, beat Lloyd Dobler at Aqueduct. Oh my gosh, how can I forget his name? But I can almost see the win picture. But Al, you know, Al has spent the money.
What's funny about Cyberknife is Al's pretty much a New York guy as far as racing, but I don't think Cyberknife has been in New York at all yet.
For you mean to run?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So it's been funny. It's been a
No.
funny.
Well, I mean, we've got a Travers that has every potentiality to decide the 3-year-old championship.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it could go into overtime. and if these horses mix it up again at Parks, it'd be unbelievable. So anyway, the trip down to Jersey was amazing. Chad was on his way. It seemed to a sweep of the graded stakes. I thought Search Results' performance last week kind of went under the radar. La Mista, I don't know how you got 9-2 on La Mista down there. They put on a great show. It was warm, but it wasn't miserable. It didn't threaten horses or postpone or cancellation, etc. So always great to go down to Monmouth. Then from there, we turned, and we were supposed to go to Colonial for Monday and Tuesday. And then Colonial canceled for Monday on Friday. So now, we're all right. I guess we can still go and be the kind of alone at the racetrack. But we got an invitation to go out to Charlottesville, and we ended up at Keswick Hall, which I invite people to look up. It is a unbelievably sumptuous golf course, a Pete Dye golf course and resort. The owners of not the owner, but the manager is a very big horse player and fan. He's invited me down before, and Debbie Easter from the Virginia Equine Alliance, who's been one of our sponsors over the years. Debbie said, "Why don't you come to Keswick?" So I did, and we broadcast from Keswick on Monday. It was fabulous. And then to Colonial for Tuesday. Tina and I took her to Monticello. She'd never seen Monticello, which was always, and I hadn't been there in probably 50 years. And then we went to Chincoteague to see the pony swim. You filled in with help from Chuck. Seth filled in at the races and did the show from the front side. Thanks for that.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Rave reviews.
Yeah, I got some nice feedback, so it was fun, yeah.
Chincoteague was amazing. The ponies, the wild pony swim, where they take the ponies from Assateague Island, they bring them to Chincoteague Island, they put them in a pen at a fairgrounds, and they sell the babies on Thursday, and then yesterday they swim them back. It's a crazy spectacle. So that was great. And then Delaware Park, broadcast for the first time from Delaware Park on Thursday, which ended up being,
that's a nice little track.
It's a wonderful, wonderful track. And John Mooney, the longtime executive, third generation. His grandfather won the Derby on Black Gold. His grandfather worked for E.P. Taylor for 50 years. was responsible for opening Woodbine, and John Mooney started Colonial when Colonial was getting going. Long time, 2 stints at Delaware, and one of the great executives in the sport for his entire life. And yesterday was his last day.
Oh, wow.
So it was, and then we came back here and did the show from here Friday.
Perfect.
So pretty unique. 4 different, first time it's ever 4 venues to broadcast the show.
And David Steinberg on Wednesday is
Outstanding. I went with the Joey Bishop
Joey
reference.
Bishop works
I thought the
too.
Joey Bishop was good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the tie. I busted.
Oh yeah, you're doing summer. Last year you made fun of me for summer casual.
Well, Dave O'Rourke is joining us, and so it's actually a paean to Dave O'Rourke, who is the tieless exec. No, I broke a button. I could borrow that tie, which used to be mine.
I said Mormino was asking on the other show, and I said, yeah, pink. I would never buy a pink tie, but this morning I put it up and I said, looks pretty good.
It's a good-looking tie. Let's say that.
Let's get into some races because you alluded to it already. Let's go back and look at the Vanderbilt yesterday with Jackie's Warrior. And as they get to the top of the stretch, Jackie's Warrior is going to be the number 4 horse. At the top of the stretch, there's probably about 2 strides where I was saying to myself, is this going to be a race? And then I was like, no, this is not going to be a race. So
Hey.
runs off, and the chart margin winds up too, but there's no real challenge. However, I will tip our cap to our friend Marshall Graham. He was on with me yesterday, and they're number 1 knee deep in snow. For Marshall and Company, 10 Strike Racing, a good second, and a second in a Grade 1. They were very happy with the second place finish to Jackie's Warrior. But boy, Jackie's Warrior again, just phenomenal. Steve Asmussen in the winner's circle said on to the Forego and then the Breeders' Cup for the last couple of starts of the career. But it was one of those races. I was talking to people in the paddock and just in the clubhouse and walking around during the day, but before the race. This is one where I don't know whether you're going to jump in and do a lot of betting at the $2.50 mutual, but as a fan, it was just fun to see.
It was spectacular, and I wrote on Twitter that if you're involved in the game and engaged by racing in any way, as a horse player, as a fan, as an owner, as a breeder, I mean, everybody that does anything around the sport, that kind of a hair standing up on the back of the neck performance is why you're in the game and why you participate. And obviously that was just the stretch run, but if you watch the whole race, and then are we watching the whole Jim Dandy?
I don't think we have the whole Jim Dandy.
Well, the whole Jim Dandy would be important, because I would recommend, if you can, if you can pull it up, that'll be better, because he is back early. To watch a Grade 1 and a Grade 2, especially the Grade 2 at this level, a 3-year-old exclusive race that has ramifications on the end of the year championships. To see a jockey, the same jockey, win both races without raising a stake, with complete hand rides. This performance by Jackie's Warrior, I don't know when we've seen anything exactly like this. Asmussen with Matoli, who was a bounding winner several times. I would say Frosted in his Met Mile. I mean, granted, knee deep in snow, made up some ground late, but Joel Rosario had lifted his foot off the gas at the 8th pole, essentially.
Yeah,
I mean, he coasted home. It was spectacular. This and Steve Asmussen, you can tell. I mean, who's won more races than anybody. You could tell. I mean, Asmussen is just astounded by this horse, and with good reason. I mean, this was a real treat. The whole thing with the first horse to win 3. Well. That is like, that's like the silliest thing.
It's a fun stat, though.
It's
a great 3 Grade 1s in consecutive years.
It'll be a fun stat in 40 years when there's a breadth of. There's only been the opportunity to do this.
I said yesterday when we were talking, I said, that's hard to believe with the length of time.
Of
but then you think about it, how many Grade 1s were there when you go.
Exactly. Especially sprints. Because sprints were slow to get acknowledged as Grade 1s anyway. So
I will toss out there one notable fact. I talked about it yesterday. It's the Vanderbilt handicap. he carried 127,
Yeah, nice
which
weight.
in my day was maybe not, but these days 127. He gave 10 pounds to the runner-up, so that's notable.
It absolutely is, and we'll also one more Vanderbilt sidebar. If you're a Twitter follower, yesterday I wanted to make sure, and every Vanderbilt I make sure that everyone remembers a phenomenon, the Angel Penna sprinter that actually won the Jim Dandy 39 years ago today.
Back here, right?
And Penna, you mean?
No, a phenomenon.
Buried. Oh yeah, buried. He's buried here. It broke down the next year in the Forgo. And the following year, NYRA instituted this race, the A Phenomenon. And not that Alf Vanderbilt isn't worthy of a stake, and a grade 1 at that. I'm not a big pave over somebody's history in favor of something more recent. It doesn't sit well, but A Phenomenon was fabulous and had a tremendous career. I think 8 for 12, 6 or 7 for 12. Won the Vosburg, won the Jim Dandy, won the Jerome, won the Vosburg. Then came back the next year. If you didn't see that video that I put up with that Rich Migliori did a few years ago of the 1984 Met Mile. Pull that up. Mac Miller and Fit to Fight and A Phenomenon in a absolute throwdown down the stretch. It's a race that doesn't get enough attention and isn't remembered as much as it should be. Really good. So anyway, the A Phenomenon, now the Alf Vanderbilt.
Let's take a look at the Jim Dandy. I said, boy, you could make a case for anybody in the 4-horse field yesterday. I slightly tilted towards early voting. I was kind of kicking myself afterwards because I really liked Epicenter the whole season, and he kind of validated things. And yeah, here they do have the race from the get-go. Yeah. Epicenter will get it done late in here and kind of stamp himself again as the 3-year-old.
Watch right here. Boom. Watch. There it is. There's Joel, very relaxed. One of the big stories through the Derby and the Preakness and coming out of the fairground success for Epicenter was, what are they doing? They're trying to teach a speed horse to rate, and they're taking his best tool away. Okay, perhaps they tinkered at a time that it might not have been the best time to do it. But look at him now, and this was a bold approach to this race, knowing that early voting was probably going to get the lead and was going to be intent on the lead. And
gets out there in 48.
And you're thinking, Jesus, boy, if we thought that Asmussen was going to yank Rosario off his horses a couple of months ago, what do you think now? Well, look at this. Now he starts to get him going, and I mean, this is really impressive and incredibly confident of Joel and of Asmussen and everybody that's look at him. He's not even really asking him.
Floats by him.
Now he gives him a little chooch and here he comes. This was really impressive.
Did you get a buyer number?
102.
102. Very good.
105 for Jackie's Warrior.
Oh, nice. That's even
hand right.
So again, now sets up very nice Travers, obviously, Cyberknife, Epicenter, and we'll take a look in a moment at the Curl, and I think there's a runner to maybe pay attention
without
to
a
as
doubt,
well.
Artorias absolutely is going to come. No, it's shaping up well. We'll see what what's funny. Baffert can't participate in New York until after January, which for Travers purposes is maybe a little bit unfortunate because he's got a couple. He's actually got right now. He's got a case of seconditis out at Del Mar. He ran second in both the stakes yesterday. I'm sure we'll look at those. But no matter what, you're going to have your two. Right now, your two leaders. It's hard to argue that Epicenter and Cyberknife right now, and then there's all of the Chad horses that basically 4 good 3-year-olds, right? So that's the way it looks.
Let's take a look at the Curlin. Speaking of Chad horses, it is Artorias getting it done on Friday in the Curlin. Another prep for, with some restrictions, non-winners of graded sweepstakes. Entered in here. Artorias is going to be the number 9 horse. Gilded Age 2 runs second. Creative Minister, the number 7, runs third. I like Be Better from Rapoli. That one kind of gets pulled up.
Not run well.
Yeah, they have to get the story on that one. But Artorias chart margin winds up to be just under 5 lengths there. So again, another horse that we'll be seeing in the Travers.
And the way he's finishing here is super impressive because this is 1 1/8 miles, and of course that finish makes it look like the 1 1/4 miles is going to be absolutely in the wheelhouse. So that was nice to get another emergent 3-year-old. That's the other part of the story, having 3-year-olds that were delayed, and part of the intrigue with that is, of course, is the Arrogate factor. And the fact that this horse has got the very similar, like his sire and Judmont, a horse that had the extended delay to get the career going. So Chad, the timing might be absolutely ideal. It's going to be a big ask, but I don't see how they resist. And boy, every time a horse now like this comes to the fore, it just makes you just ache a little bit about Arrogate's passing, because as his runners continue to mature, he would have been terrific as a stallion. So
nice performance on Friday. All right, let's go out to the West Coast. Just take a look at the San Diego, because that is a prep for the Pacific Classic. Obviously, whoever shows up there will have to face up with Flightline. It's going to be a fun event. And yesterday it was Royal Ship, the number 9 horse, getting it done. Country Grammar is the number 8 horse in here, coming out of the win in the Dubai World Cup. He'll wind up second, and Stiletto Boy third. Fourth is number 3 Mandaloon. But it was a nice win for Richard Mandela, Fox Hill Farms, and Royal Ship in yesterday's San Diego.
Well, the late Rick Porter, of course, with those jackets, very familiar. This is a very nice performance by Royal Ship. Looking forward to talking to Richard Mandela about it, and the effort of Country Grammar actually was not bad. He's an authentic 1 1/4 miles type, and so we'll see about shuffling the deck and going the 1 1/4 miles. I thought he ran okay. Mandaloon. We'll see what Brad Cox has to say next time we talk to Brad, because that was another blasé run. So,
yeah. All right, we're running late here.
All right,
so let me just toss out today over on the front side. Don't forget low rollers. That's always a lot of fun. Thursdays and Sundays have a little contest fun. We'll talk contest in a minute with our next guest as well. And you wanted to mention one thing quickly too, the MMA pick 4.
Oh, this has not gotten a lot of publicity yet.
No, I hadn't heard of it until you mentioned it.
Monmouth, and maybe you're not even aware, Monmouth is taking the opportunity to run on Mondays.
Great idea, I think.
Well, they said there's no Saratoga on Mondays anymore. So Monmouth is going to run Monday cards. So there'll be Monmouth tomorrow, and then I'm not sure if I think Brian Skirka, the amazing Brian Skirka, who's the impresario of contest play for all kinds of racetracks, but he's based at Monmouth. Brian, I think, came up with this cross-pollination, multi-race, multi-track pick 4. And they got a nice low number on it too. I think they got a 15%, maybe even a 12% takeout. So it's a minimal takeout. 2 races from Monmouth, 2 races from Colonial, all August, every Monday. Should be fun. We'll handicap it tomorrow on the radio, and want to support ideas like this when we can. So and I nicknamed it. It's the Monday Mid-Atlantic Pick 4, but MMA is easy in everybody's mind. That the mixed martial arts, I don't particularly get it, but MMA Pick 4.
I like it.
Starting tomorrow.
I like it. All right.
And beat Bick. Did you play yesterday?
I did.
And
you
didn't beat Bick, did you?
I don't remember.
You didn't pick Epicenter with me.
Oh, right, I did. No, I didn't.
No,
but maybe I have another shot today, though.
Today would be a little bit. It's funny. I probably should have used the Bing Crosby, which was pretty rough and tumble. But I thought it'd be intriguing to use the Jim Dandy to sort of, because for the four horses, you had to really think it through. So I picked Epicenter, and so those, I haven't seen the numbers yet. Today, the Amsterdam is the Beat Bick race, and I went with Papa Cap, who's...
I went with the Creative.
Yeah, all right, the now horse, I guess, but... And as it happens, the DePaula play of the day. Let's get this into it.
Oh, yeah.
I've had three straight second place finishes after a bad start. 0 for 4. I had a bunch of 3/4 and like a 7th, and finding the range. And hopefully today, I think frankly he's probably more likely to be second than win. But at 6-1, I thought that was the right price for Papa Cap today, and they'll give Andy Serling a chance to kid me, because as Andy describes him, Steve Bick's Eclipse finalist, Papa Cap was my third Eclipse vote.
Yeah.
He had a hell of a 2-year-old year, and he's had a good 3-year-old year. He's sort of, Epicenter light. Maybe today's the day. The DePaula play of the day, 6-1. Papa Cap, and I Papa Capped it in the Beat Bick as well. And go to ntra.com/NHC/BeatBick. You only have to beat me once, or come with me when I pick the winner. If you aren't a member of the tour, if you beat me, you have to beat me to get this, a $10 buy-in. This is right up your alley. $10 instead of $50.
I'm a member, though. I'm a member.
All right, because you could have taken the $40 that you saved and used it for the low roller.
Yeah, no,
Huh?
or I just win the low rollers. It all evens out anyway.
Exactly. But Beat Bick, not only will somebody on September 17th, which happens to be Tina and my anniversary, that's the finals. And when we get a winner, they'll be eligible for a $1 million bonus if they win the NHC, like David Harrison did. He's up with us next, the NHC champion visiting Saratoga. And we're going to talk to David about his big win, about contest play, about being a horse racing fan, and justifying with your spouse all the time and effort you put in to horseplay. Back after this, Loose on the Lead.
DePaula, then come join the family for value. Just visit, call, or click.
This week, celebrate with savings. Drive Silverado just $3.99 a month. Yes, $3.99 a month.
So come join the family and think DePaula for all your automotive needs. When you think trucks, think DePaula. Then come join the family for value. Just visit, call, or click.
This week, celebrate with savings. Drive Equinox just $259 a month. Yes, $259 a month.
So come join the family and think DePaula for all your automotive needs.
Stone is it outside? They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. Here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Alba. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart very dominant. It's going to be a 3-horse motor finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
We're back on Loose on the Lead on an absolutely glorious day in Saratoga. We got the heat out of the way. The heat was on in Vegas, though. The heat's always on in Vegas, but it's a dry heat. It wasn't all that dry a heat, though, for David Harrison of Webster, actually part of Rochester, who was your NHC champion last August. And David, great to have you here back in Saratoga. And it's a victory tour.
Yeah, I feel like I'm home. As soon as I drove into Saratoga outskirts, the first thing I did, though, was stop and get a Stewart's mac and cheese. There's certain areas of the country I love the mac and cheese, so I did that. And before we get started with horse playing and the ponies and the NHC, I realize now, I learned a few things last night. First of all, either the horseshoes getting younger and younger, or I'm getting older and older. I couldn't believe. It used to be you stroll in there at 7 o'clock, a bunch of horse players, then it got younger, but wow. But before, also, I wanted to give a shout out. I had a fantastic dinner, myself and Mary Ellen, at a place called the Brook Tavern.
Sure.
And Carol Ann, the manager, I had the best crab cake, I think, ever in my life.
Over in
No
Boston
offense to
Spa?
Blue. No, right here, right in the corner
Brook
of
Tavern.
Nelson.
Okay.
Nelson
Okay,
and Union.
It's not on Seth's dining circuit.
Oh, shit, okay. It's and I have
D'Andrea's and
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. A shout out to my waitress, Alex. It was the best crab. No offense to Blue. It's maybe the close second crab cake, but
this is troubling. All right.
yeah. So I'm just recommending that place highly. So
right.
thank you guys last night.
Good
And I
job.
have to tell you, I'm such a party town. I forget. I lived here 11 years. That I almost didn't make it back to Casino Lake. We were going to be sleeping in the parking lot of the. But my wife wouldn't go for it. She wanted to change.
And it's funny you talk about the social, the post-race social scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't participated in a long time, but there is one thing this morning. Our filly worked early, so I came up from the lowlands, from Henning Road, and it's 6:45, and there's a couple of cars parked here and there. And it's one of the great and funny throwbacks to a younger age when you'd wake up somewhere in the area and somebody would have to bring you back to one of the parking lots for your car. And there's your lone car sitting, down in the lowlands behind the barns, in an empty field. And I had a bit of a flashback to that.
I think
It made me laugh.
Yeah.
The same exact thought process.
I'm getting too old for this. There must have been, probably hundreds of people between the ages of 18 and 35.
Nice.
And we were probably the oldest people there.
That's all right.
That's-
Well,
that's-
you had a good time. My
that's-
band
that's-
Gravity. It was a
that's-
fantastic band, cover band.
After I just stood in that line yesterday, I walked back and picked up my car.
I
Line
left-
was halfway down the block.
Seth, I left before the last race, and of course, when I didn't watch the race, I hit man munis, so maybe that's a good sign. I'll play the race, go to the horseshoe, play the race, go to the horseshoe. But yeah, I expected to see you there, Les.
I wasn't going to wait in the line. I wasn't
No,
waiting in the line.
so there was no line, but when we walked over, I'm like, this is crazy. This place is like a zoo. And it's all bachelorette parties, bachelor parties. It's just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
No.
even more hectic than Vegas.
It was a mob scene here
yeah.
yesterday.
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
no doubt. I got here for the third race, and I parked by the barn, and I walked over, and I was like, oh boy, this is a big time. And it's it's really next Saturday is traditionally the monster first
Whitney
monster
weekend.
Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, they announced attendance
Yep.
yesterday, 37,000 plus.
Good crowd.
It was
Excellent crowd.
very big.
How about-
I have to ask,
Yes, sir.
you won kind of the outlier NHC being August. Did it help that you were playing some Saratoga?
Absolutely. Saratoga, obviously NYRA is my circuit for years. I grew up on Long Island, Belmont, Aqueduct, and Saratoga. But but I think what happened, believe it or not, being there in August and that short turn time between August and early February is that I was more comfortable. I'm a creature of habit. I like to I'm a guy that if I travel, I like to get acclimated to my surroundings for a day or two. That short turn time, I think, helped me. But what also helped me, I think, Aqueduct canceling both Saturday and Sunday, believe it or not. Because sometimes you have a predisposed bias to certain horses. You're like, oh, I'm concentrating on Aqueduct because I know that track the best. I did it the other 2 years, concentrating on NYRA. I'm like, I think I missed prices and other tracks.
Oh, that's
So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's probably a blessing in disguise. It forced me to play, handicap hard. I did, Oak Lawn, Laurel, and reach out, and I think that definitely helped me. I spent more time.
Talk a little bit about your learning curve, and then we'll talk about what went on the 3 days, because you visited with me on a pretty regular basis leading through Saturday and into Sunday. The other experiences and how you fared your first time at the NHC, subsequently, and the things that you in retrospect think help make a difference in terms of, not that people can't show up in Vegas first time NHC qualifiers, plenty of them do very well, but and make final table, in fact.
Oh, absolutely. Ryan, who finished second or third to me before AJ, Ryan, first timer, I believe.
Exactly.
He's a good player,
but there is the more typical learning curve of experience and the sensory overload, and in some cases, working too hard and getting worn down. There's the question about arriving the day before or coming maybe 72 hours before and acclimating to the time clock and to the West Coast, Pacific Coast time. There's a lot of nuance, and some of it are experiences that you don't even realize are holding you back, that held you back in your performance until you've experienced it.
Exactly. The first year was 2017 that I made Vegas, and I did it by winning the Big A Wood Challenge.
Nice.
And to me, I looked at it, that's the reward. The Vegas trip is the reward for winning that on-track contest. So anything you get, I mean, just the goal when you get there is to make the cut. Because the cut is 10 grand. Hey, listen, to get a free trip to Vegas, free accommodation, airfare, all the, and that's a great plan. But what happened is the first year I wasn't particularly organized. I think I needed a better plan, and was I in awe? Not particularly, but again, it took me a while to get acclimated to my surroundings, and I had a problem a little bit with the time change from East Coast to West Coast. So really kind of was a learning experience, and again, going back in August of 2021 in the quick turn time, that definitely helped me, and I was much more organized going into this year. What I decided to do is I categorized races. So I had either an A column, B column, C, and then an F. F is a race I'm not playing no matter what, any circumstance. I'm not comfortable 5.5 furlong sprint, or a race that I don't usually have success at. A was a race that I thought was a great contest race, definitely playable. B, possibility if there's scratches in A races, and C is like, okay, that's on the border, so if there's a little change, then C can become a B and A. So I think that really helped me a lot.
Talk about your methodology in terms of reaching, we talk often in contest play about knowing where the cut line is going to be, what the anticipated number is going to be day one, where you need to be, then adjusting the kind of horses that you're picking. Other players, they've got a wheelhouse. They're not going to play anything below 9-2. Then there's guys that like Ray Arsenault that won't play anything below 25 to 1.
Right. Bomb horse, cap horses. My goal was, after the first day, it was 0 for 7, so I had to start reaching out. Yeah, and my first win was at Aqueduct, believe it or not. The race that I focused on was Running with Scissors. I'll never forget that horse. Now I'm married to him. I have to play him every time. Now, I missed him when he won on the turf because I was out of town. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So that started me on my roll. And then after that, I hit the next 2 mandatories and optional. But the thing is, to me, optionals, I have no problem playing a favorite in an optional, unless it's day 2 and you're so far behind, because you need to, hey, listen, if you have a 5-2 or 3-1 shot and he wins, that's another $11-12 to the bankroll, and 3 or 4 other mandatories that you can get. It doesn't have to be a long shot. Now, I will give myself every day at least 1 or 2 crazy horses, punch plays, horse that you'd say, most likely not going to win, but if everything breaks right, and I think you have to know or really focus on what races that's a possibility in. The last race at Saratoga yesterday, that's the 11th, the 10th race, those are contest races. Now, in my normal play, they may not be key plays for me because I think they're inscrutable, but those are contest races. So it's picking out the race and being organized, I think, really helped me this year.
Once you basically got into contention, you basically just kept pace. I mean, we sometimes see, especially day one and early day two, we'll see people bubble up on the board, have an early, put an early big number up, and even very frequently the day one leader. It's very hard to maintain that momentum. One of the things we discussed on radio the other day is the confidence level. And you mentioned starting out 0 for 7, which is a hole. I mean, right off the bat. But once you found that range, then you were just not necessarily unconscious, but you obviously had great confidence in the direction, of your selection process. And from there, it was really just maintaining the lead, especially at the final table.
Yeah, it was almost, I can equate it almost to a hitter in baseball. Either when you go into a slump, you're not seeing the ball, you're not judging things. When you start hitting and going to a streak, now horse playing can be very streaky. I just happened to go on a streak, and the confidence level is a big thing. The year before, I was 0-4. I had $4 in my bankroll. Last race, first day, Saratoga, I hit a 18-to-1 shot. I look up, it's blinking. Got DQ'd. That was my last bullet. I had, I'm like, all right, now this is going to change. I have $4. So it changes your outlook Saturday morning. Or I probably reached out that Saturday for 2 made long shots too early. So that was that sad. This time, my goal was just to chip away. I was like amazed after day one. I was like 60 or 70. I took a picture and sent it to everybody. I'm like, can you believe it? I'm near the cut line. And that would have been a huge accomplishment for me. And then I spent a lot of time in the evenings handicapping these races, knowing, hey, listen, there's a lot of money on the line. It's one thing to have a good time, party with your table, horse playing. You know how you've been there.
Sure.
Everybody wants to go out to dinner. Everybody wants to have a cocktail with you. But I'm like, gentlemen, especially after day 2, I'm like, gentlemen, no offense, I got a ghost. I am going back to the room. I actually went back up to the room, got my other racing form, went down to Sabaro's on the first floor, had a soda and a Coke, and I spent about 2 hours there. I might have had 2 slices, but don't tell me this. But it's just a matter of the confidence level. And listen, when you're, as horse players, it's pretty common, right, to have one good day. It's like you're here for 3 days.
Sure.
One good day. You have 2 really good days, rather a little more unlikely, but to have 3 really good days in a row as a horse player, it's almost mind-boggling. And everything was, even the horses, the moderate price horses, I had cap horses running second. I had 10, 12, 13 one shots running third, just missing. So it was just in the end, when I got up to the final table or near the top 10, my goal was chip away. Even if I needed a 3-to-1 shot on consolation day, on semifinal day, just to chip in 10th, 9th, 8th, just to make that cut. And then when I catapulted to the lead, I was in shock. I mean, and then you get to the final table, you have to look to block after the 3rd or 4th race. I played the first 3 races, just played like normal, and then we'll see where the dust settles. Then I got to see what does AJ have, what does Ryan have, and then you look at the likely horses that they're going to use, and you have to try to block. That was my mindset. And if they caught me, they caught me. I was going to enjoy the experience, and it's still, top 10 was still a great payoff, so I wasn't really worrying about the money.
The ultimate payoff, $725,000.
That'll do.
Not so bad.
We got to jump off.
You got David. You got a play today? A play or two?
Do I have a play? Yes. There's a horse. I love the angle, winning a race over the track and moving up. And now you have a winning the race over the track claim. First time off the claim, Linda Rice, race 4, number 4, majority partner. Moves up, but I love that move. I always like to win over the track, affinity for the track, horses for courses, and I'll give it a shot. 8-to-1, 6-to-1 with Ortiz.
Majority partner.
Yep.
We like it, and we like rooting for the local. Paul Matisse brings some money home.
I met Paul. We have post with a picture. I'm going to post it on Twitter if it's okay. If Paul's okay with it, great to meet him.
Like to have the locals and the local natives showing up at Vegas and getting it done. All right, we'll take a break. Loose on the Lead will continue. We'll talk a little NYRA and the Saratoga meet so far and more. Stay tuned.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
The Clubhouse Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the Clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotv.com.
I'm Seth Merrow, and as serious horse players, we know that information is critical when placing a bet. With live streaming of more than 30 tracks, race replays, free past performances, and daily picks from professional handicappers, no one gives you more up-to-the-minute information than Capital OTV. Combine that with the best player awards in New York State, and you have everything a serious horse player needs to be successful.
Win more with Capital OTV.
Winning starts here. Welcome back to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning. As promised before the break, happy to be joined now by David O'Rourke, President and CEO of the New York Racing Association. Good morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for stopping by. Let's just kind of kick things off with just your thoughts and overview so far. We're 13 days in. Yesterday, a phenomenal crowd, announced attendance over 37,000. There was 29,000 on Friday. I think this weekend is kind of kicking things off in fine fashion at the end of July into the traditional August period. But boy, the first 13 days, I think, racing-wise and just listening to the fans has been fabulous. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, the fans have been great. It kind of feels like the rush came a little early this year, right?
Yeah.
It's great because, like you just said, usually as soon as you get into August, you kind of feel the crowds kind of
Swell.
Yeah, good way of putting it. But this year, opening day, and it was pretty hot. First, and weather's calmed down a little bit, but I think yesterday was like the first real big day, and now we're going to roll right into August. So the fans have been great, shows have been good, handles up, attendance has been up, and let's just have a good August, right?
Yeah, handle was crazy the first few days.
I mean, if it's like this, we're going to be good.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. It is very weather dependent, obviously, and we have had some Saratoga crazy weather. There have been a couple of days where there's been a downpour with blazing sun, but it's Saratoga in the summertime. I think overall the weather's been very nice. We lost maybe a couple of turf races.
Well, from a player's point of view, they had. See, in Saratoga, it's like you're in South Florida sometimes, and it just comes down. And so we had to come off the turf for a couple races the other day. We really don't like doing that, but for safety, we just don't have a choice sometimes. And we thought we'd get those in, and as you guys know, sometimes you just lose.
There's been a total of 5 races that have come off the turf, and in terms of a frustration for the horse players, once the sequence starts.
I get it. It's embarrassing on our You were here, right?
I actually was away. I was in Jersey.
It felt like we were fine.
Yeah.
It just came out of nowhere. But
Well, and in fact, Andy Serling and I talked about this on radio the other day. People ask, well, if they know it's going to rain, then take them off before the sequence. Well, wait a minute.
You would never have a turf race in Saratoga.
How do we know? I mean, you don't know. As somebody that when we had the barbecue, where we would track, storms, and a lot of times they're heading right for us, and it rides high, it dives down. But if you go ahead in advance and take those races off the turf, I mean, we're owners, we've got horses, the horsemen, they're wet. And now all of a sudden, you've put upon the owners and the trainers by forcing a situation where they lose the race that they were targeting. Nobody's happy. I mean, when that occasion arose twice in a week, nobody is looking for that to happen.
Well,
trying to make it happen.
Maybe we got out of the way for the rest of the meet.
That could be.
Statistics leaving out. So, but no, we apologize for stuff like that. We can't control it. We're always trying to do the right thing in terms of safety and for the player. And sometimes you just get caught.
Well, and you also had, I mean, the thing with the thing with the tractor.
Oh yeah.
I love the comments on social media. Well, at no other racing circuit would have a tractor stall. What? The tractors stall at racetracks, and that happens where the gate can't be taken off the happens all the time. You may not see it daily, but it happens all the time.
That is a situation where everyone the right thing was done. It's
Correct.
just an unfortunate outcome, but the outrider has a very short window, and he's out there to protect the riders.
Yep.
So kudos to him for making a call. It's not easy to make a call like that.
Yeah,
exactly. Take it upon yourself. Yep.
Split second
And
decision.
yeah, we would have gotten the gate out of the way, but I'm glad he made the call.
Exactly.
I mean, I can just leave it on that one.
All right, so the mishaps are over for the meet.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, statistically.
Statistically.
Let me jump in with, and I walked around the track the other day and I took some pictures of some of the improvements that have been made really since you've been in office. And so hats off to you for some of these nice decisions that I think have improved the fan experience and kind of put the facility in a 21st century mode as far as appealing to the fans. And we have some pictures of the stretch, which I have said since day one was a great addition to the track. Those two areas up at the top of the grandstand were on most days unoccupied, but now the stretch, it's kind of a little upgraded experience. The spa verandas, which I think plays to groups down at the top of the stretch. The tailgate with the chute, the tailgate area is still there. I think that's been a great addition. The 1863 Club, beautiful. And I told you when you sat down, I was happy to be invited yesterday by the Bonaventure Group. They had the upstairs in the new Paddock Suites, the new facility in the Paddock Bar area. I had a great time. I think it's a nice facility. I was out on the balcony overlooking the paddock. It's a great addition. And the Wilson Chute this year as well. So again, as I say, most of these have been under your tutelage, under your time in office. And so again, congratulations to you and the team. I think these are all nice improvements that have been good for the racing, but have been very good for the fans as well.
Thanks. I mean, they're cool projects. Up here,
Yeah.
you have fun. You have to do things in increments when you're dealing with something like something that's successful and important as Saratoga. The Paddock Suites, really, when you take the Paddock bar, the post bar, was the best bar, but it was a 10. So that was like that's taking an investment in something that's already working and trying to bring it to another level and have it fit in. The stretch, that's been around for a little while now, but that's taking something that was underutilized.
Completely.
Travers Day, you'd have people down there. Otherwise, it was pretty empty. So why not try and change it and give kind of like a more high-end but casual experience? Because in the traditional boxes, you're wearing a jacket usually, and it's more formal. A lot of people like to be casual when they come out, and that gave an offering for them. The spa verandas. Now that's probably something we'll bring over to near the chute now. So we're going to look at that area for the next year or so and see what we can do in kind of that outside barbecue feel for it. The chute's Glenn Kozak, all Glenn, and actually Bruce
Johnston.
Yeah, that was something that Bruce always talked about. He always wanted it back. He's got a race for him named going through it. So that's worked well so far. And we're probably going to build around it now with something similar that you saw on the screen before. And but yeah, I appreciate that. And everyone seems to be enjoying it. And that's it.
Yeah,
that's
all the
goal.
facilities, like I say, it brought it into the 21st century. You talk about stadiums around the country for other sports. They've all upgraded in the suites and whatnot. You have the 1863 Club that now appeals to that. But again, you appealing to the other side with the stretch and whatnot. So I think it's been a great addition. And keeping the historical veneer of the venue as well.
Yeah, and then we got rid of the Paddock tent, which nobody was a fan of.
We've gotten rid of people. There's been tents that were temporary structures for decades.
Yeah.
The tent that the 1863 Club replaced.
Yeah, the footprint's the same.
Exactly, and people were like, "Oh, the aesthetic of the 1863." See, the aesthetic of the 1863. What you think it's worse than a tent? Than a big clunky tent? You got to be kidding me. You know what I wanted to ask, and I remember when the project started what, around 2000? This is before your arrival.
Like 16, 17?
Yeah,
like in the planning phase of it.
The designer, Paul Roberts.
Oh yeah, that's way before. Yeah.
Paul Roberts, and I think this goes back to, this may even go back to Barry Schwartz and Charlie. Where Paul Roberts, who had done the work at Ascot and the rebuilding of Ascot, and I think also Longchamp. He's done basically all the biggest international redesigns, and he came here and offered a lot of insights. But I'm curious too. I saw the pictures. I don't know if you saw the pictures this week from Churchill of them knocking down the paddock at Churchill. It is so freaky that by the time we all go back to Churchill, and that is going to be completely gone. How much visiting and observation and note exchange and experience discussion do the track organizations, and I would think Churchill and Saratoga, and we'll talk about Belmont in a minute, how much observation of each other's projects goes into some of the ideas, and you know, we talked, I know, about the first turn, and utilizing the hunt meets, utilizing the steeplechase, parking space idea, and how that came about.
That's true.
But I'm just curious, if you go to Churchill, you go every year to Derby, and look around, because they've got that barbecue. They had a dead area on the turn for home that far was called Baby Grand. That area was dead for them. They turned it into this barbecue pit area with those lounges. Now they've taken some of the worst seats in the building down on the ground, and they've done the banquettes. They've done 15 or 18 banquets. So they're reimagining a historic facility as well, and keep augmenting, their, maximizing the value. I know they get criticized for it, but you've got these 8 weeks that are just invaluable to the success of the association. So you have to maximize every opportunity.
Yes, every facility is different, and everybody who does watches, we all dialogue across, and everyone has very specific goals. And Churchill's, in a lot of ways, built for 2 days of racing, and it's huge crowds, and it's an incredible asset. We've got 40 days up here, but it's different. And on our approach for Saratoga, Belmont will be different than Saratoga as well. But speaking to Saratoga, this is how we feel as a management team and our board. You're balancing between the family experience. It needs to be accessible. You do have the spectrum of price point, but we definitely don't want to get over-focused on, say, maximizing every square foot for the dollar, because really Saratoga is an incubator for fans in a lot of ways.
Very much.
And I obviously,
it's great that you recognize that, because I think you're totally correct.
Here's one of the
I think
biggest
going
assets.
to the track develops fans.
I wasn't here, but I know the history, like in the 80s with the backyard development, and what that did for the sport, I think, is massive. It created a generation of fans.
Yeah. Multi-generations now.
Yeah, and that's really what you're seeing, the success now here. And this is what I believe. We're hitting numbers, like attendance is strong, it's growing, and it's a platform that we're able to leverage with television to expand it. And it's not so much a regional play anymore, it's national. So our eye here is trying to balance this out, and that's why things like the shoot, like that's an area and that's a price point where it needs to be accessible to the public per se. The 1863 was a very specific investment, and we've learned things from that, and that did begin before my time. It was, in terms of Paul Roberts, both the stretch and the 1863 were part of that master plan. Now, do they look exactly the same as the drawings? No, I don't think they do. But in 1863 on the third floor we have 6 suites. They're amazing suites. But you can make the argument that they're bigger than normal, and maybe we could have gotten a dozen smaller ones. Not sure what the right answer is, because you can't really revisit it at this point. But so we build, we learn. But here we're going to be really cautious what we do, and we're always going to emphasize, at least for me, the family experience is huge. I think it's huge, and I don't think we've lost that. People can bring food into this venue. How many sporting venues can you do that? Essentially none. So we're going to keep that, and So we're going to have a balanced approach, really, when you get down to it.
I also think a few years ago when you introduced the season pass, that was great for fans, because up here I think there's a lot of people that want to come every day or want to come a couple of times a week or whatever, and that is a very affordable way to recognize those fans that aren't just the once or twice a meet fans. They're people you want, and you want to show appreciation to them, and I think that was a great addition.
Yeah, you get feedback on those, and you're exactly right, where it's 2:30, 3 o'clock. Yeah, I just shot over for a couple of races because I have the pass.
Yeah.
So it's definitely helping in that aspect. So
speaking about developing fans, too, talk a little bit about the television show and the development of that. That's just become a great addition. I've said it to you and the other folks I've had sit in here involved with the television show. It's not just great for NYRA. I think it's great for the game, because I think that helps develop fans too, to put the racing product, as you do on a fairly daily basis, not just focusing on NYRA, but some other tracks as well, but to do it on a national level, I think that's pulling in new people.
yeah, and you guys here have been doing that for a long time, and we appreciate what you guys have done. And it's you have a very strong regional brand. But what racing was missing, we felt in the mid 2000s, like say 2010, 11, 12, was really a presence on mainstream sports on a national level. And the industry made some moves. There were some NBC shows that we had done up here, and then I know some others. The Jockey Club came in.
The Jockey Club on Fox.
And that brought kind of Fox in, and Fox kind of took a look around, and it's evolved into the Fox series that we have now. We're on Big Fox yesterday. The Whitney will be on NBC broadcast, I believe. So if you look at racing in the last 10 years, how much exposure it has, it's amazing, and it's great, because it's an inflection point where, at the same time, sports betting's been legalized. So we got a shot, and it's working well as an industry to position ourselves for this massive customer base growth, accessible customer base growth with our game. And I think it's all working well. And we're really pleased with our partners at Fox, and we really appreciate what you guys do here.
I appreciate that. And as I say, I applaud you guys whenever I have somebody come in involved with the television show, because I think you do a great job. And as I say, I think that's developing new fans.
They won't let me on the Fox show, though. You guys, this is great.
Okay, so we get extra credit there. I like that. I wanted to touch on another thing too, and I'm just curious. Talk a little bit about when you're in the back room and having the discussions with the various members of your team and whatnot. What goes into, and how often do you look? Because you added this turf triple just recently, and I'm curious if new bets coming into the game is kind of unusual, and you added a nice little wrinkle with the turf triple. So how do those discussions develop, and how do you decide to pull in a new type of wager like that?
That's a good question. When I came into NYRA in 2008, I was really from the finance side, not racing. So I learned it from the finance side, simulcasting. There's a lady here at the time, Liz Bracken, who kind of taught me quite a bit about how the industry economics work, and then wagering in like the early pick five, so those were, I don't want to say they were my babies. Like Andy Serling would have a lot of input on them. Now there's a whole new team. Joe Longo would be the person on that, and he's, for lack of a better term, experimenting, and this will evolve. So I don't want to say I'm hands off on it, but I'm letting them play with the product, because it's one bet.
Yeah.
In some ways you can say, what's the harm if it doesn't work? You just try something new. I know he's been iterating on it. I have some ideas on it, but I don't really like to push them, because I might suggest them, but I want them to kind of. It's their game to play now.
Yeah.
So, I've always wanted I always have to come up with something here that's something I get crushed on Twitter for.
That's not hard.
Yeah.
That's not
but this one's a good one. A pick 3 exacta for 10 cents.
3 straight exactas.
Yeah, Sterling and I came up with this a few years, a while ago now.
Yeah.
It's a pick and exacta.
I kind of like that.
It's like the twin try.
Yeah, and you put in the
like
last
the old
3
twin
races,
try.
and it's like kind of like you got a last shot for a decent payout.
Yeah.
And a $20 ticket get you decent amount of coverage on it.
Well, and there's, one thing that New York
That's my
has been.
bad idea.
No, it's not. Listen, there's no bad ideas. There may be.
No, there are. Trust me.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Like you mean like racing roulette that was attempted.
Yeah, that's tough pari-mutuel, because that's where like fixed odds come in.
Well, go ahead, go on this, because I was down in Monmouth for the weekend, And I mean, the BetMaker team, I know you've had conversations with everybody, and you've acknowledged that it's something that if the door can be forced open, you want to be involved.
Here's how I've been a pretty big proponent of getting onto sports betting platforms because of the size of the market. How we get there is a massive industry question and strategy. The preference from not me would be have them adopt parimutuel. And this is just setting aside all the laws, because there's a lot of different laws, but in a vacuum, have them adopt parimutuel. At that point, then go into promotional bets and start to dip your toe into the fixed odds side. I think for the industry, because of the way the pools, we don't want to we want to minimize the cannibalization and make this accretive. So, and I believe this is the way it will roll out. It'll be parimutuel will be adopted, and then you'll start to see, I don't want to call them novelty bets, but it's almost like marketing. And then you might be able to go further, because there are limitations with pools and trying to introduce a roulette bet. But you can do that fixed odds on the fly.
Well, and Dennis Drazen, that's part of Dennis's strategy is, because Dennis single-handedly, more or less, changed the landscape of sports betting in the world with what he accomplished. But one of the things that they want to do at Monmouth is to have, parlay, involvement between sports,
cross sports stuff.
Yes, that's a big part of their hope. I mean, it's going to be, and this has been the challenge going back to Betfair and in race wagering, the exchange market is the way things are structured. You talked about legalities and the jurisdictions. Is getting critical mass and getting the necessary tipping point volume-wise and dollar-wise to make this work. I mean, we keep hearing and everybody and I understand why they talk about Australia and New Zealand, but Australia and New Zealand had a very different scenario where they have one tote operator. They don't have all these multiple tote operators. They don't have all these multiple jurisdictions with different tote rules. So granted, it was a big success there. That's great to hear, but we've got an infrastructure that is, first of all, creaky and difficult.
Yeah, I don't know if the infrastructure on the tote side is any different, to be honest with you.
No.
It's not, actually.
Well, except that we have three different vendors,
they have different
right?
totes, too.
They have different vending. The tabs got
I'm
different.
not an expert on Australia, but the different territories do have different.
Okay, I mean,
now I don't know what the back end.
I see what you mean.
But to your point, it's cultural too.
Yeah.
And what have they been doing? And Betfair, in terms of an exchange,
right?
And you're saying liquidity on the exchange. Maybe to introduce an exchange before you have fixed odds, because they're kind of more married than the parimutuel. It's kind of. You want to introduce fixed odds, and then maybe the exchange comes. I think all these products ultimately have a place. It's just you got to roll them out. Like right now, the challenge was, or our challenge, and was funding. Like you have an account, and you need to fund a parimutuel accounts under a certain license, or sports betting accounts on a different license.
Right.
And there's codes for that in terms of, and I'm really referring to credit cards. And then commingling that, if you're funding for different things with different codes, to commingle it into a unified wallet, because you need to have a unified. You need to make this easy on people.
Well, that's been the problem.
That has been resolved now, and that's working through. That's why I believe that parimutuel will land onto these platforms in the near future. I'm talking 6-12 months, and then I think you'll see different jurisdictions like Jersey, who are probably the most aggressive.
Yeah.
And hats off to Dennis for everything he has done. Start to introduce fixed odds in certain things. We're going to be conservative with it. We'd like to try it. I understand the cross bet thing. In my mind, it's something we could possibly integrate into the shows, where you could say, that's my horse, your horse, and we're just going to, doesn't matter who wins the race, but like I like that horse. You're like, you've done this. I know every player has in a disagreement, and you could actually put that on the show, have people like Jonathan and Andy, for instance, disagree, and then just create a bet right there. And you can do it on the fly. You can't do that with parimutuel. And that lends to an engagement with the fan, where I'll put $10 down on Jonathan.
Exactly. I brought up the exchange experiment from about 10 years ago, just because it never reached, it had people that liked it and played it, but it didn't. If you don't have matchups, if you don't have enough people engaging on either side, you can't. And the concern, I know the concern for the people that have been anticipating this and sort of watching its development is that fixed odds is going to face the same challenge until there's a critical mass, that there's enough. I mean, I guess Colorado is poised to be the next.
I mean, that's
next
really a
market.
question for the books on how aggressive they want to be with their lines, because liquidity is important for them, not so much for the customer. It depends on what they want to put the line out on and how much risk they want to take on. So I haven't really been paying attention to what the in Jersey, like what their takeout or whatever you want to term it on their side is, but that comes down to the competitive of the market, the tax rate in the jurisdiction, and how aggressive the house or the book wants to be. For us in parimutuel, you're absolutely right. It's about liquidity, size of pools. Same thing goes for an exchange. But on the fixed odds side, they can launch with relatively light activity as long as they want to maintain the book out there, and their book will get out of balance. And that's their game. They know what they're doing on that.
Well, BetMakers pledges or absolutely says that they've got, they're just an intermediary, but that they've got the bookmakers that are committed to this, to making it happen. So it may be a very slow development curve, but I've heard repeatedly that you're poised, that if it gets to a point where New York can be involved.
Yeah,
you'll
at the moment, until we get a specific law change in New York, we can't distribute fixed odds in North America. Internationally, yes, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's actually, the person pointed out, I was impressed with the Interstate Horse Racing Act. Part of it really says, in a nutshell, you can go across state lines as long as the bet is legal in both jurisdictions. So in New Jersey, you can place fixed odds wagers on horse racing. In New York, it's specifically prohibited at the moment. Now, we'd like to change that, but we have to work with the state on that one.
People wonder why the industry, why there's so many things that that feel like are in a crisis mode or are impossible. They're not impossible, but the way this business and this industry grew, because it's the oldest business of its kind, the oldest sport in the United States,
the oldest gambling.
Yeah,
really.
Everything else that's being reinvented or basically being created in all these states that are putting sports betting together, they have the advantage of Las Vegas's experience the last 70 years. Racing, this started after 1910, basically. Yeah. After the introduction of parimutuel, all the rules and the state regulations and the state racing commissions and everything. I don't want to ask you about HISA today. We'll let that go wherever it's going to go. But this is a perfect example of why it's so difficult for the industry to. It can't turn on a dime. It's the Queen Mary. It takes 16 miles to make a turn.
Easter Sunday, you can go to the casino, you can get a scratch-off ticket, but you can't play horse racing.
Well, we got Palm Sunday, though. Palm Sunday's all crossed off the list.
But I think that's the perfect example of the anachronism that kind of rules over the sport. Dave, we'll let you go.
No, I can't let him go.
No, I was going to say, before we let you go, we do want to hit on the news that came out earlier this week and just fill us in on the situation after Saratoga. And no Belmont this fall. We're going to be at Aqueduct, and fill us in how long that's going to be, what the game plan is and whatnot.
Sure. So we've redone all of the racetracks, essentially. Aqueduct's racetracks are a few years old, but essentially brand new. Same thing up here, even on the Oklahoma.
That's true.
And the training track at Belmont was actually one of the first. So the surfaces at Belmont, they're about 50 years easily. So we really need to redo the turf tracks. And we would like to winterize the main track and change the base from clay to. All our tracks are essentially the same except for that one. To do that, though, you have a question: do you want to access the infield or not? And this is a phase one of what we hope to be a much larger project where the building's involved. But for this conversation, I'd like to stick with the tracks. So, do you want to access the infield? If you're going to redo these tracks, you need to do that project now. You don't want to put in new tracks and then cut across them. The other piece of it is, do you ever want a synthetic in the middle? And it's big enough that you can get a nice sized track in there. A mile, I think a mile and 16 is even possible. So what Glenn Kozak and his team are doing right now, from the north side, building basically a commercial tunnel that you could bring a tractor trailer through.
That's the train
station side.
The UBS side.
Correct. And there will be a pedestrian tunnel right next to that. And that will be done this fall. And because of how good Glenn is at this, he's able to cut the tracks and then put them back, and we'll be okay to run in the spring. That's the plan. And then we'll have access to 55 acres. Yeah, essentially it's bite the bullet. At some point you're going to have to do this.
I'm going to get it out of the way.
We want to start moving forward on this because we want to redo those tracks. We really want to look at synthetic surfaces, particularly for the winter and off when it rains, when you're off the turf.
Yeah.
We also, as part of that project, it's kind of a footnote in these press releases, though, on the pony track at Belmont.
Yeah.
We're putting in a Tapeta surface, and that'll let Glenn's team get. We haven't had.
See how the weather treats it.
We haven't had an outdoor synthetic, and that will give him time to work with that surface, because depending on when you're using it, it's the type of what do you call it, wax that you'll put on it, and there's a lot to it. So we'll be working with that service. You'll cut this. We'll next year, then we'll have to make a decision on are we going with the synthetic track first, or how are we going to tackle the turf courses. There could be other tunnels, but they'll be much smaller, more like pedestrian on the south side. But you can't, since we don't have the bonds or the funding for the building. Where do you want to put that tunnel? And then possibly a horse tunnel on the east side.
There you go.
To get to the synthetic, but that comes with the decision on the synthetic.
Well,
but these are much less. I mean, putting in a tunnel that, he's basically building the Lincoln Tunnel on the north end.
Exactly. So luckily there's no water, although I suppose the
there's not actually really good drainage there. It's all sand.
There's a million other questions, obviously.
Sure.
You did mention the funding. The initial expectation that the state would float bonds was rebuffed. Where does that stand? How do you foresee pulling this together funding wise?
So
for the
the Belmont project's not a new one, is it?
No.
So this has been going on. So this got as far as it was in. It was basically where bills written, and it was discussed. Massive amount of progress. There's other things going on this year. There was a stadium for Buffalo. It was their turn. So we're keeping at it. We're moving the project forward on the tracks. And our hope would be we're in the next round of this, because we think the project makes all the sense in the world. We're consolidating racing in one location. Aqueduct is a massive plot of land in New York City that is owned by the state, that by us vacating is open back, and it's the people.
You would think that there'd be a little bit of a
there's value to it.
Pro quo on that front.
Essentially, you're in a way you could look at it where it's unlocking value with that property, and it's allowing us to build a modern facility, reduce our overhead because now we're not operating two, and increase our revenue and have a venue that not only the Belmont Stakes, but then we can attract the Breeders' Cup and get onto that rotation. So if you think of it that way, we would also be bringing a massive event
to
New York.
That's true. Good point. You've already. Did you consider reopening the backstretch at Aqueduct for training?
There's a lot of when you're dealing with this much agriculture in an area like that. There's environmental issues that it's really.
Well, plus you've already invested at Belmont.
We've been out of there for a few years. So not only would you have to go in and fix a lot of things, for lack of a better term, there are some environmental impact things that become difficult to kind of just jump back in.
So you've already the cow.
Yeah.
The horse proverbially left that barn.
Correct. Yeah.
Hey now.
Very good.
Quality. Zingers.
We appreciate. We're overtime. We appreciate you sticking around a little bit longer, because it's always good to have conversation, kind of fill in and update things at Saratoga and the other tracks as well. Appreciate your time. Certainly wish you a lot of continued good luck at the Saratoga meets. It's been great so far. Continue it.
Thanks, guys.
You can also look forward to the Dave O'Rourke Play of the Week He's been promising or threatening those for the last couple summers. So we're going to start to get him over to my broadcast position by the racing office. I'm holding you now. You're going to make some picks.
Yeah, and as soon as I do it, just cross it off your ticket. It's always what do you eliminate? That's the game, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, we appreciate the visit again.
Guys.
Continue. Good luck. We'll wrap it up for this week's Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrow and Steve Biggs.
2 for the
Steve
price of
Biggs
1.
Back from
and wreaking havoc.
The trip across the country last week.
No time.
And he'll be in for the rest of the. You guys are summer.
That was an
casual.
honor. That was
he
an
made
honor.
fun of me last year for going summer casual with no time. And now you guys are.
It's Sunday.
That's what I'm all about.
Wednesday through Saturday, I notice. It's the same as Sunday.
I'm all about the no tie, but I got the.
It's got my. That's one of my ties.
I said I wouldn't buy pink, but I thought it looked pretty good.
It does.
Thank you. All right, we'll wrap it up. We're Loose on the Lead for this Sunday morning. We'll be back in the morning, 9 o'clock a.m. on Wednesday. Handicappers Award, 10 o'clock, Racing Across America. Enjoy the racing this afternoon. Don't forget low rollers. Always a lot of fun. We'll see you Wednesday morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.